Hi and welcome to this vlog and welcome to the glory that is Swedish winter. We normally get some cold days or some cold weeks even, but mostly that is later in spring. It will most probably come in February or something, but January and December is oftentimes very rainy. As you can tell, it's raining right now. And it has been for what feels like a couple of weeks. So winter in southern Sweden is the least glamorous season I think there is. So I thought I would show you around and see what we do to better the paddocks that we have to keep the mud away. As you can tell, Tumult is not mud-proof. So starting on Tumult's paddock here, I think the most important thing we've done to keep the mud away is to put down rock gravel. And right here is exactly what it looks like. There is some big pieces. You see this one is quite a big piece. And then we have smaller pieces. And I think the importance of this is that it is so sharp, so it neatly packs. It's not round, so it doesn't move around a lot when it has been put on the ground. And the horses do a great job themselves of just pressing it and making it firmer. So all over Tumult's paddock and the round pen over there, we've put down the rock gravel or the rock crush, I think you call it. And this is about, I would say 4 or 5 years old, and we just keep it clean, and we just keep if there's holes like this puddle here where it becomes a little thin, we just keep it topped off. So we just get another wheelbarrow of the gravel and just fill up the holes that arrive. And we do try and keep the paddocks clean. We usually go about 2 weeks and then we do clean up the paddocks. You want to be with us today, don't you? So we find that keeping the paddocks clean from droppings and plant materials keep the mud at bay. Because it's usually the plant material that keeps the water on the ground and keeps it from entering the soil underneath the gravel. And I think that is the most important thing that the gravel does. It allows the water to drain down. So you can see here we have a tiny little hole and you can see the water under there, but just under. So the very top itself, it keeps very nice and even. And even in winter, the gravel is firm and sharp enough that I can ride even though it is frozen. And that is the big difference between normal gravel and the rock gravel. That it keeps solid in winter and doesn't go bumpy and slippery like I find that normal gravel does. I don't find that this type of gravel does that. What we also try and achieve is to keep areas separate. So we keep the areas with the normal topsoil, like this one here, separate from this one. Now I can open here when it's summer and it's not muddy or the topsoil will not cling to the horse's feet as much. I do open here so he can go here, but he can also just go up there and go all the way around and go out here. He usually sleeps out there, that's why I keep that area open for him, or at least I keep one path open. So we find that is essential to keeping this gravel fresh and clean, is to limit the access points from and to it, or at least from other areas where the normal topsoil is. And that is just because all of this he has on him, he is gonna deposit on the gravel itself. And this leads us to another area of mud proofing. Now all the high stress areas, like an area here from his box, you can see how muddy it actually is right at the front there. Now right here, I don't know if you can see it because it has been a while since we cleaned up here. Right here where he's standing, there is a mud mat. And you can see here, it is right underneath here. And it has done a beautiful job of keeping the ground firm. That is basically what they do. They drain and they keep it firm. So they don't allow the horses to make these little scoopy bumps. We need to be able to see stuff here. So they don't create these muddy little holes that the hoofs do. You can see his hoof doesn't dig down in it at all when he stands on it. So here we have a good example of what I was talking about earlier. Here we have the rock gravel, and here we have normal topsoil that the horses have been on. Yes. So you can see the little mat we put down here. And these are also, I think, this one in particular, I think it's only 3 years old. But the one we have on tractor's side here, I don't know if you can see it for all the droppings, but I think this one is 6 years old actually. And they do start to crumble a little bit on the edges. You can see right here. But that is just because that they're very heavy horses and they do stand a lot here. So for it to just wear out just a little bit like this, it is just amazing because it does such a good job of keeping it drained and keeping the ground firm. He will stand here, I mean, up to three quarters of his day, and he can you know, he can go to the bathroom right here and step around in it, and it won't permeate or it won't mix with the gravel because the gravel is so firm. So we just find that they are a very, very easy and good idea to firm up the ground. So back here we keep all our extras, and you can see that we have the mats that we use for the horses here. So they're not by any means the most expensive mats that you can purchase. They are just your completely basic, I think it's I actually think they are the cheapest you can get, but if you put gravel in them, they will do just really, really good work. So I think it depends on what you fill them up with. If you fill them with sand or something that is softer and doesn't firm up as well as the gravel does, I think it's gonna what? I think it's gonna what are you doing? Why are you here? No, you're a problem. The weather in southern Sweden can range between many temperatures. We usually have between plus 12 degrees all the way down to minus 20. And there is no telling what kind of weather we're gonna get before winter really arrives. Sometimes we'll have snow for weeks at a time, and other times we'll just have very mild weather with lots of rain. So right here behind me we have our arena, and I want to just briefly talk about this for a moment because we did actually hire people to make the little arena that we do have, and we try to just scoop away the topsoil, get down to the natural occurring gravel that we have in the ground, and then on top of that we put gravel. EU gravel, so it's kind of a rough gravel, if that makes sense. And as you can see behind me, there are big puddles on it. So the drainage didn't work. And even though we hired someone to take care of it, I think you always get puddles on the arena anyway. Or at least you need to keep them up, so you need to top them off with a lot of gravel. And what I don't like about it is that it goes incredibly dusty when it's hot. And in the winter months, there's so much water on it that it freezes to the point where it becomes slippery. So I think what our plans is for the arena here is to just put down gravel, because the puddles aren't that deep. So I think what will happen is that the gravel will just make the ground firmer, and the water will be able to escape down in the puddle or down in the soil, still allowing it to pass through. So I think this is a project that we'll need to do in summer. To sum up, I think the most important things we do for mudproofing the paddock is just we put the gravel down, and then we keep it nice and clean as a horse paddock can be, and then that we separate the areas. So paradise paddock and making these paths are great for it, because you separate the normal topsoil areas with the areas that you do mudproof. And I think that is the number one thing. So if you have a big feeding area and you put down gravel and you don't limit the access points to it, then it's gonna take a couple of months, and then you're just gonna have the same muddy area as you had before, because they just bring so much topsoil with them from the other places in the paddock that you cannot mudproof, because some areas are a problem and you cannot get to all of it. I mean, that would be very, very expensive, I think. And I think it's also important that the horses just are able to go on different areas. So I hope this was an informative video and you got some information about the rainy season here in southern Sweden.